They said humans were primitive, incapable of art that could move the stars themselves. They were wrong. The first sign of the invasion came not with the thunder of weapons, nor the ominous shadow of colossal ships blotting out the sun. No, this time, it was the sound, a subtle vibration beneath the soil, a distant hum that grew, almost imperceptibly, into a melody. Dr. Elena Voss, an astrophysicist turned reluctant cultural liaison, was the first to recognize it. From her observatory, high atop the craggy cliffs of Terra Nova, she could see the immense alien war fleet slicing through the stratosphere. Sleek, black, and unyielding, the ships moved like a tide of darkness, their hulls glinting with an eerie bioluminescent light. The aliens, known collectively as the Catherians, had spent centuries cataloging civilizations across galaxies. They prided themselves on their intellect, their mastery of physics, and their unerring logic. But to them, humans were merely an amusing curiosity, a species that screamed, laughed, and danced without reason. Their civilizations built on chaos and emotion. To the Catherians, human culture was a minor spectacle, easily dismissed. And yet, here they hovered, ready to enforce compliance through superior technology and overwhelming force. In the command room aboard the flagship, General Soren observed the humans with detached amusement. They performed their rituals, he said to his second-in-command, his voice a cold hum. They chant and strum, but do not think they can oppose us. Music, mere sound waves. We will endure it, as we endure their history of war and self-destruction. But the humans had something the Catherians had never encountered, music that was alive. Not just notes on a scale, not just vibrations in air, but a tapestry of emotion woven into sound itself. From the makeshift amphitheater in the heart of New Manhattan, an ensemble of Earth's finest musicians had gathered. A bamboo flute whispered over the quiet hum of a guzheng, while the resonant strings of an erhu added an otherworldly depth. The leader, Maestro Jian Li, raised his baton, his eyes closed, feeling the rhythm of the human heart itself. As the first notes drifted into the atmosphere, something remarkable happened. The alien sensors recorded the vibrations, analyzed the wavelengths, and found nothing logical. The music should have been inconsequential, even irritating, yet the frequencies, interlaced with human emotion, triggered neural dissonance in the Catherian minds. Confusion spread across the command deck, screens flickered, shields shivered. The aliens, accustomed to bending other civilizations to their will, found themselves halted not by weapons, but by sound. From Terra Nova to the edges of orbit, the music rolled like a wave. It was more than melody, it was declaration, defiance, and identity, all in one. And as the humans played on, oblivious to the cosmic consequences of their art, the Catherians experienced something that had never been recorded in their history: awe, fear, and, most unexpectedly, surrender. The first reports of disruption came as anomalies in the Catherian fleet's communication network. Orders sent from flagship to cruisers bounced back incoherently, commands twisted into something unrecognizable. The Catherian captains, masters of strategy and precision, found themselves arguing over tactics they had never intended. General Soren's voice, usually the harbinger of obedience, sounded distorted in the minds of his officers. Panic and emotion humans understood all too well crept into their ranks. Back on Earth, the musicians sensed the subtle shift before the scientists could even quantify it. Maestro Jian Li's hands hovered over the strings of his guzheng as a tremor of realization passed through him. The Catherians were listening, not passively, but reacting. The human orchestra didn't falter. Instead, it adapted, responding instinctively to the tension in the air. The notes rose and fell like tides, weaving complex rhythms that mirrored the alien energy pulses detected by Earth's satellites. Dr. Elena Voss monitored the incoming data, eyes wide in disbelief. "It's like the music is interacting with their neural networks," she whispered. "Their entire fleet is experiencing cognitive overload. Every ship, every mind is being affected differently. This shouldn't be possible. Yet, possibility is the playground of human creativity." With each swell of the orchestra, the Catherians' hyper-advanced systems faltered, energy shields flickered, propulsion arrays misfired, and weapons calibrated for annihilation suddenly refused to engage. A cruiser commander reported confusion to his superior. "The vibrations, they are pleasurable, painful. I cannot." The message ended abruptly, garbled by a wave of harmonic resonance. Soren slammed his clawed fist against the control panel, a gesture the Catherians believed conveyed authority. But the music had pierced even his disciplined mind. Memories he didn't know he possessed surfaced as auditory hallucinations, echoes of a life he never lived, an overwhelming sense of loss and wonder. The sound was more than music. It was a bridge to emotion, to vulnerability, to empathy. And empathy was a concept entirely alien to the Catherians' militaristic logic. Meanwhile, the humans, unaware of the exact mechanics of their victory, continued to play. A solo flute cut through the rising orchestral tide, a single thread of clarity in the chaos. Notes cascaded like droplets of water, each one carrying centuries of human emotion, love, fear, hope, defiance. Across the battlefield, Catherian drones ceased their fire, hovering as if caught in a trance. Ships slowed their approach, unable to reconcile the paradox between their programming and the sensations invading their minds. As night fell on New Manhattan, the orchestra played on under the soft glow of emergency lights. Wordless messages traveled along the network of satellites and receivers. The fleet was immobilized. The aliens incapacitated not by force, but by art. Humans had discovered a weapon no one in the galaxy had anticipated, a weapon born not of physics, but of feeling. For the first time, Earth breathed a cautious sigh of relief. But while the immediate threat had slowed, the question remained: could music alone force a surrender? And if so, what would the Catherians do next? By dawn, the alien war fleet hung suspended above Earth like a storm frozen in time, instruments still vibrating in the makeshift amphitheater. The human orchestra had unknowingly established the first true line of defense the planet had ever seen. Sound as strategy, emotion as armor. Every note from the guzheng, every breath from the flute, every stroke of the erhu seemed to ripple across the void, infiltrating the alien neural networks with waves of harmony and dissonance intertwined. In the flagship's bridge, General Soren paced furiously. Logic told him to strike, to fire, to unleash the accumulated firepower of centuries, but every impulse to act was drowned out by an invisible tide of sensation. The aliens' collective mind, engineered to perceive threats with flawless precision, was now trapped in an endless loop of auditory stimuli. They felt longing they could not identify, nostalgia for worlds they had never known, and a bewildering sense of awe at a species they had deemed insignificant. Soren's second-in-command, the tactical prodigy Chiron, spoke carefully. "General, the humans. Their music is affecting every member of the fleet. Shields are unstable, weapons systems inactive. We are paralyzed." His voice wavered, a rare sign of vulnerability among the Catherian elite. Soren's antennae twitched in disbelief. "Impossible," he hissed. "Sound is sound. It cannot." Meanwhile, on the ground, humans noticed subtle changes in their own perceptions as well. The music they produced, though instinctive, had a feedback loop with the alien signals. What began as simple melodies became a dialogue across species. Each crescendo forced the Catherians to mirror the intensity. Each delicate passage drew a response in their machines, their minds, their very perception of reality. It was as if humans and aliens were now engaged in a dance. Neither fully understood, a dance conducted entirely through sound. Dr. Alina Voss, monitoring the phenomenon, began to hypothesize. "The music isn't just audible," she explained to her team. "It's modulating electromagnetic fields, neural frequencies, maybe even quantum-level perception. Humans have accidentally weaponized culture. This is unprecedented." Back in the amphitheater, Maestro Jian Li felt the shift in the air. The music had become more than expression, it was negotiation, it was persuasion, it was a bridge. He had no words for what he was doing. No one had ever trained for such a moment, and yet instinct guided every movement, every note. He realized then that humanity had been underestimated for millennia, not for its technology, but for its ability to feel, to create something so ineffably human that even a war machine could not resist its power. Across the fleet, confusion escalated into surrender, not in words, but in action. Ships slowed, engines idled, weapons locked. A strange kind of calm spread through the Catherian ranks, a surrender born not of fear but of reverence. The humans had tapped into something the aliens could neither compute nor resist, the essence of humanity itself. As sunlight broke over the horizon, the orchestral notes lingered like a vow. Humans had not merely survived, they had shown that art, emotion, and creativity could stand against the most advanced warforce in the galaxy. Yet the final challenge loomed. Could this fragile balance hold, or would the Catherians eventually recover and retaliate? The morning sun painted New Manhattan in shades of gold and rose, yet the city remained eerily quiet, punctuated only by the fading resonance of the orchestra. Humanity had witnessed a miracle, a war fleet of Catherians, feared across galaxies, now suspended in submission not through firepower, but through the delicate art of sound. Dr. Elena Voss and her team worked feverishly to understand the phenomena. Computers analyzed waveforms, sensors monitored energy flux, and yet the full mechanism remained elusive. It's almost as if the music speaks directly to them, Elena murmured. Not through logic, but through something deeper, emotion, perhaps even empathy. The aliens themselves were grappling with an impossible reality. General Soren paced the bridge, antennae quivering with frustration and confusion. Their species had evolved to suppress emotion in favor of reason, yet here they were, experiencing something they could neither predict nor defend against. Every harmonic wave from Earth's instruments caused subtle dissonance in their mental patterns, weakening their resolve while simultaneously inducing a form of awe previously unknown. Chiron, the tactical prodigy, studied the situation with a mixture of fear and fascination. "General," she said cautiously, "their music, it's like a language. We cannot comprehend the syntax, yet it communicates. Surrender, perhaps even trust. We are being persuaded without words." Soren's eyes widened. Persuasion was a human tactic, yes, but it required subtle understanding, manipulation, and intent. Music mere sound was achieving the same effect across the fleet. On Earth, the orchestra continued their performance, unaware of their tactical significance. A violinist's bow drew trembling melodies from the strings. The flute's airy notes danced over percussion's heartbeat-like rhythm. The Cytherians, observing through orbital sensors, found themselves drawn irresistibly toward the source. One cruiser slowly descended, as if compelled to kneel before an unseen altar of sound. Another turned its guns inward, disabling targeting systems. Humanity's artistry was redefining the rules of warfare itself. Amidst the unfolding miracle, a small communication signal reached the human scientists, a single, tentative transmission from the Cytherian flagship. It was crude, broken, but unmistakable. A request for parley. Dr. Voss's heart raced. They want to talk," she whispered, barely believing it. The music had done what no weapon could. It had opened the door to dialogue. The world watched as humanity approached the orbiting fleet, armed not with missiles or lasers, but with understanding and the same music that had halted their advance. The orchestra's notes now carried messages embedded within the melody, an invitation, a gesture of peace, a bridge across species, culture, and experience. Soren and his officers faced a decision they had never imagined. Could a species so small, so emotional, wield a weapon that left no scars but commanded submission? The answer was written in every vibrating molecule of their fleet. Humans had spoken in a language that transcended logic, and for the first time, the Cytherians felt hesitation, the precursor to trust, and perhaps, the birth of a new alliance. The sky above New Manhattan shimmered with the reflected lights of alien ships, no longer advancing but hovering in an eerie, expectant silence. Humans had learned to watch for enemy movements, for the telltale signs of aggression, but now they watched for responses to music. Each note, each chord, became a negotiation, a test of patience, and a declaration of strength. On the flagship, General Soren struggled to maintain his composure. The paradox of their situation was unbearable. They had mastered galaxies, but here, they were paralyzed by art. Chiron observed the unfolding events with a mixture of awe and fear. "It's not just disorientation," she said, antennae twitching. "It's surrender. They are surrendering not out of fear, but out of understanding. They recognize something in us they cannot name." Humans were equally unaware of the cosmic stakes at play. The orchestra, guided by instinct, now wove patterns deliberately. The conductor, Maestro Gian Li, felt a profound responsibility. Every note carried the weight of the human species. And yet, there was a strange joy in it, had celebration of what it meant to be alive, to create, to resist oppression without violence. As the music swelled, signals from the Cytherian fleet grew more chaotic. Engines throttled down, weapon systems locked in standby, and communications buzzed with untranslatable interference. The aliens' minds, attuned for strategy and control, were now caught in an intricate web of human emotion, longing, curiosity, even admiration. For the first time, the invaders considered humanity not as an inferior species, but as a force to be respected. Then came the pivotal moment. A single Cytherian cruiser detached from formation, descending slowly toward the city. Its hull shimmered, revealing intricate patterns that mirrored the melodies drifting through the air. The humans paused, holding their instruments as the vessel hovered directly above the amphitheater. A voice, translated imperfectly through alien to human converters, reverberated. "We understand. We yield. The demonstration is complete. Humanity acknowledged. Cheers erupted among the musicians and scientists alike, but Maestro Jian Li signaled for silence. The performance continued, for surrender was not merely a single act, it was a process, a dialogue. The music now celebrated the union of species, a testament to what could be achieved through creativity and empathy rather than destruction. Across the globe, humans watched in wonder as more ships followed suit. One by one, the Catherian vessels descended, their weapons disengaged, their intent clear. The largest armada ever assembled had surrendered without a single life lost, compelled not by terror, but by the resonance of human culture. It was a victory unprecedented in galactic history, one that would be recounted in human stories for generations. Dr. Elena Voss documented every anomaly, every sensor reading, but she knew the truth could not be reduced to equations. The surrender was not only of ships, it was a surrender of assumptions, of pride, of the belief that logic alone could conquer the universe. Humans had reminded the galaxy that there were forces beyond calculation, beyond reason, the subtle, unquantifiable power of art, of emotion, of being alive. The city was bathed in the soft glow of early morning, and yet, it felt like the dawn of an entirely new era. Above New Manhattan, the alien fleet no longer loomed as a threat, but drifted with the serenity of creatures awed into reverence. Humanity had faced an opponent unlike any other, an invincible force of intellect and technology, and had emerged victorious not through weapons, but through music, creativity, and the raw essence of being alive. Maestro Jian Li lowered his baton as the final notes lingered in the air. Musicians exchanged stunned glances, the gravity of what they had achieved finally settling over them. Across the amphitheater, Dr. Elena Voss wiped sweat from her brow, her mind racing with data and disbelief. "They've surrendered," she murmured, almost unable to comprehend the reality. "They've surrendered to music." In the flagship, General Soren confronted a truth he had never imagined possible. The Catherians, trained to suppress emotion and rely solely on reason, had been undone by a force they could neither predict nor measure. The pride of a civilization that had conquered countless worlds was humbled by the artistry of a species they had once considered insignificant. Chiron observed quietly, antennae drooping in a gesture of exhausted awe. "We underestimated them," she said softly. "Not their technology, their hearts." The aliens began a careful process of communication. Through a mixture of gestures, lights, and sound translations, they expressed a newfound respect for humanity. They spoke of curiosity rather than conquest, admiration rather than dominion. Earthlings, for the first time, could witness diplomacy on a scale that transcended language, rooted in understanding and empathy. The Catherians' surrender was absolute, but it was also a promise of peace, a recognition of a shared universe. World leaders and scientists convened immediately. The orchestral amphitheater became the symbolic center of first contact, a place where humans and aliens would work together to map the stars, to learn from one another, and to ensure that conflict was replaced by collaboration. It was a victory not of force, but of consciousness, one that would redefine humanity's place in the cosmos. Yet the most profound change was intangible. Across Earth, the story of what had occurred spread like wildfire. People realized that music, art, and culture were not mere pastimes. They were instruments of connection, of persuasion, and of power. The humans had demonstrated that vulnerability and creativity could bend the wills of even the most advanced civilizations. What had once been laughed at human music had rewritten the rules of engagement for the entire galaxy. As the sun climbed higher, Maestro Jian Li and Dr. Voss stood atop the amphitheater, looking toward the horizon where the Catherian fleet now moved in synchronized calm. The orchestra's instruments were quiet, but the resonance remained not in the air, but in the hearts of every listener, human and alien alike. The music had ended, but its impact would echo across time. A reminder that the most unexpected weapons are often the ones born from beauty, emotion, and creativity. And somewhere deep in space, General Soren finally understood humans were dangerous not because they fought with guns or technology, but because they could wield hope, harmony, and soul in a way no one had ever anticipated. Humanity had not only survived, it had triumphed in a way that would be remembered for millennia, through the symphony of life itself.